Hey everyone, this is the third part of the trilogy discussing the map variances in the Ticket to Ride game, focusing on the maps available in the digital version, but these are also relevant to the physical maps if you buy the board games. Unfortunately at the moment not all of the physical board game maps translate into the digital realm, so for example I won't be discussing the Amsterdam map or the London map or the New York map, etc. But these are the maps we'll be discussing today. It will be the UK and the advanced UK expansion, the Nordic maps, the German, the Swiss and the French maps. In the previous video I covered the main European map and its 3 variant expansion called 1912 expansion, and then before that the original video was the USA map, the one that started it all, and then its 3 map variant, the 1910 expansion, and also the I've clicked on it now, the Pennsylvania map as well. And the Pennsylvania map, in terms of a physical board game, for me at the very least, it came in an expansion that included both the UK and Pennsylvania. So I've got a board game at home that's got the UK map on one side and the Pennsylvania map on the other. So without further ado, let's take a look at some of these maps. So we'll start with the Nordic one. That's perhaps one of the simplest ones to take a look at. So it's a portrait laid out map. Personally I prefer the landscape ones. It doesn't really affect gameplay. When I'm playing on the digital version I do tend to have to zoom in a little bit more. Not really a change in game mechanics, but you'll notice that there's a stretch of trains that is 9 in length, or track that's 9 in length, and that's worth 27 points if you can achieve that. If you've seen the Europe video, the one before this, where I discussed tunnels and locomotives, we've got the same mechanic there. Locomotives actually were also sorry, not locomotives, tunnels and ferries. Ferries were discussed in the Pennsylvania map as well as in the Europe map. So if you're not familiar with those concepts, have a look at perhaps the Europe map video, because that covers both. It covers the concept of ferries going over a body of water and the concept of tunnels and having an unknown number of cards that you have to place. Other than that, of course, it's got its own individual destination tickets and they're quite colourful and bright, which is nice. And the train cards have also got quite a nice little touch, which is they're all snow capped, just to reinforce the fact that this is the chilly Nordic countries, and as you can see, so it's quite a nice little addition. One other thing to note on the Nordic maps is if you are playing on the Xbox or PC via the Xbox Game Pass, if you've got the Ticket to Ride game, in which you get the USA map, the Nordic map is a free downloadable content, so you can download the Nordic map as a free add-on. You don't have to pay for that. All the other maps are individually priced, although I bought the entire map collection in a pack called the first class expansion pack. So the first class expansion pack gave me all of the other maps, which we're obviously discussing a lot of the European ones today. So we'll go down to the Swiss one now, and we'll come back to the German one in a second. So let's have a look at that. And this introduces the concept, as we can see here, of country to country or city to country. So this one is saying Zurich, so we need to go from Zurich to one of the other countries. It doesn't matter which one, it could be France, Germany, Italy, or Austria in this case as well. So the points that I will get will be the highest points for the routes completed. Let me try and rephrase that. If you connect only one route, let's say I connect Germany, I'll only get 3 points. If I connect Germany and Italy, Italy's worth 11 points, therefore I'll receive 11 points at the end rather than 3, or rather than 3 plus 11. So you get the points for the destination that you complete that's got the highest value, even if you complete more than one. Some of them are country to country, and you have to complete a route from the sort of the host or primary country. In this case, you can see it's France to one of the other countries, and the same rules apply. So if you can go all the way from France to Austria, you're going to get 14 points. If you don't complete the routes, the points that you lose are based on the lowest value on the card. So for example, if we were to select the Zurich to other countries map, and some of the other, routes, and some of the other routes as well, and at the end of the game I've not quite completed, perhaps I wanted to get 11 points, and I've gone all the way down the board, and I'm just waiting to get into Italy, and I've not quite done it, I'm only going to lose 3 points, because that's the lowest value on the cards. Also to mention is, to complete a country you have to go all the way up to the map point in that country. So for example, France is a good one here. We've got a yellow set of track here and a white set of track here, and it looks like they both go into France, but that won't count as France. You have to have completed this part of the route if you're in this general area to make France. And of course, when you go into each of the countries, France has got 4 individual places you can go to. It's quite distributed. You can complete France by going from Zurich to France here. So what would that be? 3, 4, 5. There you go. 6, 7. So in 7 pieces, 7 track lengths, you've completed France. Now, if you're already going to go down to Italy, perhaps you've also got France on something else as well. Maybe you want to connect France and Italy. You might want to go down the map there and connect France here. Perhaps your strategy would be to try and connect as many of the countries as possible, do them piecemeal, and then right towards the end of the game, try and finish off the one that you're closest to. But in any case, that's the sort of game mechanic. There's another interesting one as well, and that is that previously locomotives could be used as a joker card. In fact, they used to have the J symbol up in the top corner, and you could use it as a joker card to complete a route based on a colour. Let's start the game, and I'll show you what I mean. So let's take black. Right, here's the first interesting thing. Normally, once you take a card from the common sort of 5 community cards, or the deck, normally if it's from the community cards and you pick a coloured card, you can't pick a locomotive. It kind of indents off to the right. Not so on the Swiss map. You can always pick 2 cards. In fact, maybe I want both locomotives. I can pick both of them there. But going back to my original point of the wild cards, so let's say, for example, I want to complete this route here. Purple. It's a purple route. I've got 1 purple card, and I've got 3 locomotives. So ordinarily, I could substitute in 2 of the locomotives for 2 of the purple cards, and that would give me my 3 cards. But let's see what happens. It's blocked out. I can't do it. If I drop a card there, it says you need 2 extra purple cards to claim this route. So you can only use the locomotives in routes where there are tunnels. And again, if you unfamiliar with how the tunnel mechanic works, look at the Europe video, and it's sort of discussed there. You can, however, mix and match in terms of tunnels. So a tunnel doesn't mean it has to solely be locomotive cards. You can mix and match. So let's try and find one. For example, there you go. We'll do this one. So it needs 4 in length. I've got 2 black cards. I can quite happily drop that there. At the moment, I've got 3 locomotives. You can see as I hover over, it's showing I'm going to use my black cards and locomotives. So there we go. 2 black cards, 2 locomotives. I've got 1 locomotive left. So other than that, there isn't really any other difference or change in the game mechanics. So we'll take a look at the German map now. So the German map, another one that's in portrait mode. So the first thing you'll notice to begin with is the way that you get your tickets offered to you. You can choose, you're going to receive 4 tickets. You can have 4 that are short, 4 that are long, something like half and half, or you could have 3 of one and 1 of the other, or the other way around. So, perhaps I'm going to take 3 long routes and 1 short route. Now I only need to keep 2 of them. So my short route here, listed with a green logo at the top, blue for the longer routes, and let's see what we've got on the map. So again, we've got the concept of country to country, and you do have to complete a piece of train into that country, but only into one part of that country. So again, we've got three country places here. Again, same game mechanics really, and if we select the cards, select the tickets I should say, just so we can look at the train cards, we can see the kind of the train design there. Again, we've got the concept of the Joker card, and only picking 1 Joker card at a time. So unlike the Swiss map where we could have both. When we go for additional destination tickets, again we've got a combination that we can choose. We're again going to be offered 4, so perhaps I want 4 short ones this time. I'll put something in a similar location perhaps to existing ones. There we go. That's a nice little Joker card, and you can see when you pick a card that indents off. It's not eligible to be picked in addition to another card. You can pick it on its own as part of the standard rules. And again, you can substitute. So if I need the orange one up here, I've only got 2. It's a length of 5, so I should be able to substitute all of my jokers for that. There we go. If we look to see what the highest scoring route is, I think it's 7. Yes, it is 7, which is kind of like these routes here are 7 as well, and that will get you 18 additional points. Okay, now we're starting to get into the really kind of out there game mechanic maps. So we're going to go France first. France is a totally different beast. As you can see, very few of the tracks actually have a colour associated to them. The way that you play the French map is you designate a colour that you want each of the map pieces to be. So if I go down to the bottom right here, you can see I've got a sort of a little picture of a couple of tracks, and if I go into that, you can see for every colour I've got 3 two space tracks. I've got 3 space tracks, 1 4 and 1 5. And what that means is, if I pick some cards to begin with, again, doesn't really matter what, I need to pick at least 3. Every go I have to designate or every time I draw cards I should say, I have to designate a train track colour. So let's pick, it doesn't matter what cards, green, purple. Okay, so I can now pick any of these colours and assign it to any of these train tracks. So let's pick red for example. Perhaps I want to complete a 3-piece track here in red. So I don't have to actually do anything. I haven't claimed the route, I still have to get the trains for it, but likewise so can my opponent. So my opponent Marg, she's just laid a yellow piece of track there. Now what I could do is be sneaky, pick some cards, let's maybe, I don't know, put some orange there. She's already claimed it. Do you know, I had enough Joker cards, I should have just used those. I'll show you something else very quickly then. Over in a number of places on the map, we've got bits of track that cross each other. So if I lay a track between Cherbourg and Le Mans, or Saint Malo and Rouen, whichever one I lay, it's going to go over the other track and it's going to render the other one unusable. So let's say for example this one across the middle, this will actually prevent me using either of these 2 routes. So again, let's just randomly pick something, let's call it green, and as soon as I put that over there, these 2 are no longer available. So I can see my opponent Marg has just laid 4 yellow there. I can quickly jump in there and claim those. Likewise she can claim mine. We'll now just again randomly pick something, and let's say I want red over here. So you can see the 2 red markers top and bottom, the same as over here. Can't claim it because I've already got a route that goes through the middle. There you go, it's cut off by a track piece. Now if I have a look at the track pieces that are available, the green 5-piece is now gone. So let's say I kind of really want a green 5-piece somewhere else. We'll zoom out of the map. So we'll go green, and again we can't do that. If I try and lay it, there isn't any 5-piece of green available. The other thing, because I'm playing a 2-player game, I also can't lay track on a sort of a triple or double width piece that has already been claimed. So you really do have to play 4-player games to be able to have multiple coloured routes. So yeah, I mean that's basically the mechanic for the French game. Adds quite a lot more in terms of dynamics. It's quite an interesting variant. There's also the concept of ferries going across bodies of water as well, and again that's covered in the main Europe map, and I talk in detail about that in my second video in this trilogy. So last but not least, again another very different game mechanic is found in the UK map. So first of all, we'll go to the normal UK one, and we can see here we've got 11 what are called technology cards. We'll come out of here. The last one here, by the way, is the right of way card. I'll go through each of the cards in a minute, but I want to show it to you on the advanced map, because the advanced map is exactly the same. It's just that it has some additional cards, additional technologies. So we're now on the advanced map. So now we can see we've got 16 cards, so an additional 5 from the 11. And how the technology works is, to begin with, you're limited. So to those not familiar with a map of the UK, we've got Scotland up here, and you can see the kind of the blue circle with the white cross through it. That's the Scottish flag. We've got Ireland over here on the left. We've got England from the tip of Scotland going all the way down to the bottom here, designated by the St George's flag, the white background and the red cross. And then over on the left hand side here we've also got Wales, the Welsh dragon in their flag. So to begin with, you are limited. You can only lay tracks that are 1 or 2 pieces in length, and only in England. So if you want to lay tracks in other countries, if you want to lay tracks that are longer length, you need to pick up some of the technology cards. There is one exception, and that is right at the very bottom. We've got it's a whopping, I think it's 10 spaces worth 40 points, Southampton to New York. You can play that at any time. It doesn't matter what technology cards that you have. Interestingly, the technology card that gives you access to Ireland will also give you access to France as well. But let's just pick some cards and we'll kind of see how this plays out. So this is up in Scotland. I'm going to pick that one. We've got Belfast to Manchester, so I'm going to pick that one, and Edinburgh to London. So I've got one that covers just England, one that covers Scotland, and one that covers England through to Ireland. So we'll start the game with that. So my go first. So I'm going to play, let's say, this one piece here, which is in Wales. We'll see what happens. It's red, I can't play it. If I drop it, it says you need the Technology Wales concession to get this. So I can't play that route. I don't lose my go. I get to kind of have another go, take some cards or do something else. Perhaps I want to, let's grab a purple card and something else, and I'll play something elsewhere. There you go, so there's a card laid there. I can quite happily lay a length 2 track there in purple. There's 2 reasons why I can't lay the purple track up here. One, I see which one it tells us. So it says we need the Mechanical Stoker to claim the route. The Mechanical Stoker lets you have routes of length 3. So let's go in and let's buy that. Oops. So you do that by clicking this little section up here, and the Mechanical Stoker is where are we? There. So if we click on it, if you click on them, it will tell you what they all are as well. So Mechanical Stoker, it's going to cost me 1 locomotive, and I can claim 3 space routes. So I do want that one. I've got 1 locomotive. Interestingly, let's say I don't want to pay with that locomotive. I could pay with 4 cards, any 4 cards I want, and that will also count, because as it says there, 4 cards count as a locomotive. So that's another interesting game mechanic. you can always play 4 cards as a locomotive. So I'm going to purchase that for just 4 random coloured cards. Brilliant. So I've now got the mechanical stoker. So I'm now going to play this route up here, because I've got 3 cards, and again, won't let me do it because we need the Technology Scotland route. Okay, so we'll go back in, we'll see if we can get the Technology Scotland. I still have a locomotive, remember? But I can't, because I've already bought technology during this turn. So I can obviously stack some cards, I can play somewhere else. I'm just going to grab some cards. Okay, so we'll go back in, we'll get the Technology Scotland, so I can now claim routes into any of the 10 Scottish cities, and again it's worth a cost of 1 locomotive. I could, well, I can't trade in for 4 cards because I don't have 4 cards. It has to be a locomotive, so we'll take that one. So now I should be able to play that route. And there's some other things as well, so just get a small number of cards. Again, you probably saw you get the same original game mechanic with locomotives, that you can only pick one from the visible deck, and that's your go, or you can risk 2 cards, but after your first card's pulled blind or from the deck, you can't take a locomotive. Okay, let's pick some of these ones. Actually, what I'll do is I will get a Ireland concession. First one, Ireland France concession, so that's 1 locomotive. I'm actually going to do that with just some random cards, so 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so now that I've got the France-Ireland concession, as we know, I'm able to go into England. I'm already able to go to France, and I can lay 2 pieces, so that's not a problem. So I'm going to lay a 2-piece train into France. And again, it's come up red, and that's because I need the technology propellers available. So all of these routes that you can see that have got the additional locomotive on, these were described in a previous video. These are ferry routes because they cross a body of water, and with the exception of the New York, Southampton to New York, you need the technology to cross the bodies of water. So again, I can't pick one now because I've already bought technology during this turn. We'll come out of that. Again, I'll just draw some cards. So I bought the island one. I'll go back in. I'll buy the propeller one. Where's that? There we go. That cost me 2 locomotives, so I'm actually going to have to use some other cards. So we'll do that. I can now have a go. So I'm going to play my yellow card and my remaining cards as a locomotive. So it's completely wiped me out. Get a couple more cards. Okay. So again, you're always kind of picking 2 cards. Wouldn't it be great if on your turn you could draw 3 cards? Well, one of the concessions will let you do that. So I can't remember which one it is. I think it's perhaps this one. It is water tenders. So when you draw train cards, you can take 3 blind instead of 2. If you take 1 card, as soon as you take a card from the middle, that's it, it's go over. But if all 3 cards come from the blind pack, every single go you can take 3 cards. We'll go through all of these. So we've talked about the Ireland France concession. We've got the Scottish one as well. The Welsh one, again, just lets you use cities in Wales. We've got the mechanical stoker, so we can use spaces of 3 routes. Boiler lagging gives you an extra point for any route that you claim after you claim that card. And as it says, you can combine it with a steam turbine card to get 3 points for every ferry route you claim. So for every route you're going to get 1 point, but if you get the steam turbine card, that on its own will give you 2 points for every ferry route. So obviously you can combine the 2 and get 3 additional points for every ferry route that you claim. The booster, so you can now use 3 cards as a locomotive instead of normal 4. So that's one that I like to get fairly early as well. Just Basically this one and the water tenders means I can draw way more cards out of my deck and lay fewer cards as locomotives. Effectively every single, if you've got both of these cards, it's like every single draw is the equivalent of a locomotive if you need it. Propellers we've got, that allows us for the ferry routes. Again, it tells us we've already bought this technology, so we can't buy it again. You need the superheated steam boiler to be able to get 4, 5 and 6 space routes. Mechanical stoker still needed for 3. The steam turbine, so this is what we talked about before. Won't go into detail there, but 2 extra points for ferry routes. Double heading, so at the end of the game, 2 points for every ticket you've completed. If you complete a lot of tickets, this can be quite a lucrative little bonus. 5 tickets is more than reasonable in a game like this. That's an extra 10 points. Right of way, well, this costs 4 locomotives. So again, some of them cost a lot more. This costs you 4 locomotives, this costs you 2. Remember, if you've got the booster, a locomotive is only the equivalent of 3 cards. So if you've stacked a lot of cards, it can be quite easy to get some of these. The right of way, this is a really interesting one. If someone's claimed a route and you need that route, you can actually usurp them. I don't quite have enough cards yet. I might see if I can grab cards and show you, but you can basically steal someone's route. You can put trains down where theirs were. You've claimed the route, they haven't. You have to play it as soon as you've got it. I think it mentions that, yeah, you must immediately claim the routes. You can't kind of claim it and then bank it for when you might want it. And then once you've played it, you can you put it back in the deck and it can be claimed again. One of the new ones for the advanced UK is thermocompressor. So you can claim 2 routes in a particular turn. Again, you then have to put it back, and it costs you 1 locomotive. So you have to take at least 3 cards to begin with. If you do claim additional tickets, you only need to keep 1 out of the 3 that are offered. Diesel, and that's a really interesting one. One of the ones I try and get first of all. You need 2 locomotives for that. Again, you can see if you hover over, it will tell you what each of these things are as well. But let's go in and take a look. So we got the thermocompressor claiming 2 routes. Equalising beam, so at the end of the game, as it says, 15 points if you've the longest route. However, if you don't have the longest route, you lose 15 points, and you have to purchase this before the train cards are reshuffled, once the main deck has been exhausted. Likewise, you can only purchase this before the cards are reshuffled. This one gives you 20 points if you've got the most completed tickets. I think the purpose of forcing you to do it in the first shuffle of the deck is because by the time you get to the second one, you're towards the end game, and it might give you an unfair advantage. You can kind of see that you've got far more tickets than your opponent, or a far longer route, and it'd be a really kind of cheap win to be able to just nab 20 points and 15, maybe 35 respectively to do that. I mentioned the water tenders before, again allowing you to draw 3 cards every single time. Now this diesel power is brilliant. Every route you can play it with 1 fewer card than is shown, so you still need to use the same number of trains to claim a route. So if we come out of here, this route here where it's 2 long, I'd need 2 trains. This one where it's 3, I'd need 3. But when it comes to actually playing those cards, you only need to play 2 cards. If I wanted this route here, 6 in length, I only need to play 5 of those cards. So it's really good. You can play fewer cards to get more routes down. So again, that combined with perhaps the not the booster, the water tender, where you can draw 3 blind cards instead of 2, you'd be able to draw far more cards and have to hand fewer back to lay down track. So there's only 1 of those cards though. Likewise, there's only kind of 1 of these cards, but as it says, you have to return it to the deck once you've used it. There's only 1 each of these cards. The others, pretty much all the games you might play, there's enough there. There's 4 cards, and you get to keep them permanently anyway. So that's a good one to nab at the beginning if you can, just because there's only 1 of them. And if you're playing a 2-player game, it's something that no doubt your opponent will get an advantage if they claim that card. So that's it. I think that's covered all of the different mechanics of the UK and the UK Advanced game. And we'll finish off, I think, very quickly on the Asia maps. So we've only got 2 here. We've got India and Legendary Asia. So if we go to Legendary Asia, we'll have a look here. And Again, it's a landscape map. Where you've got the routes with crosses, these are called mountain routes, and what that means is for whatever it shows you on the card, you need an additional card as well. Sorry, not card, it's train, isn't it? Let me pick some routes and we'll see. I'll lay 3 cards there, so I only laid 2. Yeah, it's trains. So because that was a double route, there were, I don't know if you noticed that, it's like this one, there was 2 routes that were mountain routes. They cost, each of those ones with a cross through it cost an additional train. So if I play this one here where it's black, although it will cost me 2 cards, it will actually cost me 4 trains. So you can see I'm down to 41 trains out of 45, and I've only played this route with 2. You've also got the concept of ferries. Again, I talked about this multiple times, so I won't go over that. And other than that, it's a standard kind of game. The game cards are kind of standard looking, and the destination cards, obviously, you know, they're sort of specific to this map. So that's really it for the Legendary Asia one. Not a huge amount to kind of say on that. In terms of the longest route, it's 6, and you get 15 points for having the longest one there. And the Asian Explorer bonus, it's for going through the most number of cities. You have a city count at the bottom. So here we go. Oops, I've clicked on it, but it doesn't kind of do anything other than show me my cards. But I've connected 2 cities. So let's choose these cards and connect some more cities. So there we go. Let's go for this 1 point. So if I go here, I've now connected 3 cities. I don't need to connect them all together. If I there you go. What have we got? An orange and a joker. So if I go up here, that's 2 other cities. So that'll go up to 5. He says, "Ah, no. Okay, you do have to connect them." I've not connected them yet. Of course you do. Yeah, that's one of the challenges that took me quite a while to complete. So yeah, I mean, what you'll see is that number won't go up until you get to a point, you know, if you join all of these together, you know, perhaps what I could do is join this with a length of train up here, and then all of a sudden I've connected 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 cities, and there's a bonus at the end for whoever's done the most. Last but not least, let's go to the India map, another portrait one, and it introduces the concept of mandalas, which I think in Sanskrit means circle. And a mandala is basically, you know, if we've got a mandala of 1, we've kind of connected one of our routes, and it's, you know, perhaps we've got a route that goes from Pune to Bezwada here. If we connect Pune to Bezwada and then connect Mormugaon, so if we connect all of that into a loop, that's connecting 1 destination, so we get points for 1 mandala. If we connected, so for example, our route covered Bombay to Waltain and through Wadi, for example, I could create a loop of Bombay to Wadi and a loop of, say, Wadi to Waltain, and of course, because they all interconnect and it's a big loop, that would be worth a loop of 2 loops, making 10. And you can intersect loops as well, so you could create a loop that, let's say, goes all the way from Bombay all the way around in a big circle and back round, and then another route that goes from say Waltain there all the way through our existing loop that we've created all the way back round. And again, we can create loops that way. To get the biggest points, what you want to do is just create an all-encompassing loop. So for example, if you had cities to connect between Jaipur and Indore and Mangalore and Bombay, ideally you want to create a loop that goes, you know, Bombay all the way around Jaipur, you know, coming back round to Indore, let's say up round there, down there, you know, across through Madras, for example, Mangalore, and create a single big loop, and that way, you know, it might cover 4 destinations. In fact, it gives you a little diagram down there. So that's a different game mechanic. You've also got the concept of ferries again, as we've got with many of the other maps. There's no mountain routes and there are no tunnels. The longest route that you can get is 8 pieces, being worth 21 points. So other than that, I think that covers it. In terms of the cards that you pick 2 out of 4 to begin with, and if get some new destinations. We only need to keep 1 out of the 3. Still get our 45 trains. And actually, let's take a look at some of the trains as well. So standard train cards as well. So that's the India map, and that completes our roundup of all of the maps between the USA region, the Europe region, and of course the Asia region. As I said, there are some other maps available in physical form, like Rails and Sails. I've not played that. There's a New York one, a London one, an Amsterdam map as well. It'd be great to see them come to the platform digitally at some point. Obviously, if they do come out, I'll purchase them, I'll play them, and I'll add that to my videos. In another video, I'll cover, you can see down here it says 9 out of 9, so we're on the India map and I've completed 9 challenges. I alluded to this in a previous challenge. I'll go through each of the maps and each of the awards and challenges in my next video. So for now, thank you very much for watching, and see you all again soon.